everybody. Welcome back to another fun-filled or sure-to-be fun-filled episode of your favorite movie podcast. That's right. It's the one and only Forced Perspective. This is episode 112, if I'm not mistaken. I'm always forgetting the episode counts nowadays. But on this episode, we are back after a 2-week hiatus or so. Last episode, we previewed the summer movie season with all the blockbusters slated to come out the next few months. And on this episode, we are going to get us started with the summer. We're going to be reviewing Deadpool 2 and Solo, A Star Wars Story, the two big releases that have come out in the last 2 weeks. Before we get started, I'm going to introduce my No More Force Perspective co-host, the one and only Adolfo, the Chewbacca to my Han Solo. What's going on, man?
Chewbacca to your Han Solo. Well, I am big and hairy. I'm taller than you. I guess that works.
Well, you were, but apparently you did shave the beard.
I did shave my
that
face,
was kind of depressing. Yeah.
But the rest of me is still pretty hairy.
Oh, that works then.
When I take off my shirt, it's just like another shirt underneath.
So the summer must be hell for you then.
Yeah. Well, that's why I shave my beard in the summer, because it's just so hot.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Forced Perspective. It's been a while, Adolfo. Like I said, the last episode we did was a couple weeks ago or so. We did the summer movie preview, but what's been up since then? How you been?
Oh, not much. I've only really gotten a chance to fit in the two movies that we're going to be talking about this on this episode, as far as in theaters go, because they were the two made releases. Other than that, no, everything's been okay. I will say this: I do have something I wanna start off with, kind of a controversial thing. I wanna point out. I wanna mention here. I want to make a controversial statement. So since our last episode, I have rewatched The Last Jedi for the first time since December. So I'd only watched it in December. It was the first time I've seen it since then. And, in our initial review, I said that I liked the film. I thought it was flawed, but I liked it, and I was, I was against like all the fanboy hate and all this other stuff, right? So I watched. It's been about 6 months. I watched it again, and my opinion has changed a bit. And here's where the controversy is going to start. I actually like it even more now.
Oh,
so that's right, nerds. I'm doubling down. Come at me.
Well, there has been kind of maybe you've seen this on Twitter. There has been kind of I've seen some threads going on The Last Jedi, even as far back as yesterday. I forgot who it was that was posting a long thread about the big scene with Luke in the hut, where he was going to strike down Kylo Ren. Which is so quote-unquote out of character for Luke Skywalker. But if you actually read that entire thread, it explains it pretty nice, like why that scene works and why all the hate against it is kind of, I don't want to say stupid, but kind of, let's just say misguided. Let's call it misguided. And like I said, when we did our initial review too, like I was kind of on the fence about it still, even after 3 viewings, and you kind of brought me over to it's a good movie, maybe not great. And I still don't think it's a great movie because I tried to rewatch it on my phone. Because I got the digital copy, and I'm still halfway through. I haven't bothered to go finish it, so there's really no, I guess there's no urgency for me to go back and watch that movie again. But I'll still live with my assertion that it is a good movie. You're doubling down on that it's a great movie.
I'm doubling down. It's a great movie.
So like what?
I'm not gonna put it at original trilogy quality yet. I'm not gonna put it at Force Awakens yet, but I'm gonna put it on level with Rogue One.
So what aspects of the film, or like what parts of it is making you double down? Like what parts are sticking out to you the most as to like, okay, this is really awesome or this is really great? What's making you make this quote unquote controversial statement right now?
Honestly, everything that everybody hated, I'm doubling down on that it's actually great. And one of them is the Luke character. I know everyone hates the fact that Luke is, they betrayed the character. He's not, the Luke Skywalker I knew, blah, blah, blah. I'm doubling down, man. That is a great character arc for Luke Skywalker. The man who was supposed to be the leader of the hero of the galaxy has become this. He was supposed to bring balance to the Force, and then what happens? Decades later, everything is back in the same place. that it was before. It just has a different name now. It's the First Order instead of the Empire. Instead of the Emperor, you have Snoke in charge. Instead of Darth Vader, you have Kylo Ren running around. Everything is back to the same again. So everything he did was pretty much for nothing. And he's a cranky, bitter old man. Of course, he'd be a cranky, bitter old man. He failed. He fucked up. So of course, he's going to be living off on an island where no one's supposed to find him, and live in solitude because he doesn't want to screw anything else up. That moment where he's in the tent going to kill Kylo Ren, that is him like succumbing to the dark side, and he has succumbed to the dark side before. So I don't want to hear what anybody says. He succumbed to the dark side in Jedi when he was killing Vader, and then slowly pulled himself back from it. So that I am doubling down on that. That is a great character arc for Luke Skywalker, and then by the end of the film, he does do that thing where he goes out. He eventually does confront Kylo, and he does the dying in front of the two sons. So I'm doubling down on that. That is a great character arc for Luke Skywalker. I know that everybody wanted to see Jedi Master Luke Skywalker acting like Yoda throughout this whole movie, teaching Rey the ways of the Force, which he kind of did, but not in the way everyone wanted him to. I know everyone wanted to see that. I know everyone wanted to see him back in the Millennium Falcon with Leia and Chewie and 3PO and R2-D2. I understand that that's what everybody wanted, but that would have been the normal, safe, boring choice. And I love that they didn't go that way. I love that they went this way. I'm also doubling down on Snoke getting killed because I still hated that character. I thought it was a stupid character to begin with. That was one of the flaws I had with Force Awakens. And watching him get killed in this movie again, spoilers, watching him get killed in this movie again is so satisfying. Now, I will say this. I only saw the movie in theaters, and then I watched it on Blu-ray at home. And I had a problem with Snoke initially because he just looked like a fake CG character. I will say this, on Blu-ray, on my really nice TV and like ultra high definition, he does look actually really good. So I will give it that. So he didn't look as fake as he did for whatever reason in like on a projected theater screen, but on my TV, like with a Blu-ray quality, on Blu-ray it looked a lot crisper and looked a lot better. That said, I still was super happy to see him bite it. That scene where after they kill him, where they go and have the big brawl with like those Red Guard dudes, awesome sequence. And
Yeah.
Here's the most controversial aspect of this entire re-review. I don't hate the Canto Bite sequence anymore. I actually, even though it is useless, quote unquote useless, and nothing happens, that's kind of the point. So I'm okay with it. It's kind of the point that nothing's supposed to happen because it was supposed to be like the whole lesson here is that nobody is planning things ahead. They're just going off by the seat of their pants and doing stupid, foolhardy, reckless missions that don't make any sense instead of just listening to the people and the leaders that are supposed to be in charge with Leia and I forget her name, the Laura Dern's character. I can't remember her name now.
Admiral Holdo.
Holdo, thank you. And her
Vice Admiral Holdo. I should say.
I think it's a shame that she only got one movie because I really liked her character the second time around. I love her self-sacrifice and ramming the ship in light speed. I thought that was super cool. I'm on board with this movie. I think it's a great film. Last Jedi, good movie.
So you're saying that, I mean, yeah, the movie does have flaws, but like everything that people were complaining about, essentially, like that was the point. Like you just said right now, the Canto Bite sequence. Yeah, it's kind of everybody just kind of going by the seat of their pants and kind of just being a little foolhardy and reckless. That was the point of like, that sequence and them doing like kind of stupid maneuvers. It's just them kind of like not realizing the threat that was ahead of them and just them kind of just essentially, I don't want to say.
Yeah, and it's also there to kind of show I mean, I know people have an issue with like the quote unquote SJWization of things, but I don't really care if they have a problem with that because at the end of the day, they could, Rian Johnson could have just gone ahead and made another like good guys versus bad guys story, right? But he tried to interject something else into it, and I'm not gonna knock him for that. Like, so, like the whole thing about like, uh, the war profiteering and then the rich versus the poor, like the 1% versus the 99%, and like that whole thing that was in there. Like, I'm totally fine with that, and that was really emphasized in the Canto Bite sequence. So the only thing that's kind of ridiculous is that they cast Justin Theroux for like 3 seconds. Like, I still don't understand why they did that. Like, and again, I'm just like, why did they do that? Like, was he? You know what? I should check the special features on the Blu-ray to see if he had more scenes, because it's like, why is he only in the movie for like literally 3 seconds?
Yeah, that was kind of
But
weird.
otherwise, why cast him? I mean, not that
They
he's a
brought him in
huge
just to
star,
be a
but
red herring, essentially.
I guess, but not that he's a huge star, but he's a well-known actor. Like, he's got a recognizable name, recognizable face. So it's odd that you're throwing him in for like a literal cameo, right? So it's funny that, I don't know. It's just funny. But I should check to see if he had other cut scenes or anything like that. I'm told there's a bunch of cut scenes, cut materials. I haven't actually gone through all the special features yet, but so yeah, I don't have a problem with the whole Canto Bite sequence anymore. I think the whole reason it's there is to show you the plight of like the underdog, and how society's being affected, and how these people are, these war profiteers are they're selling ships to both the First Order and to the Resistance. So
Right.
yeah, I don't know. I really like it, and again, I'm going to reemphasize my point that I liked Force Awakens a lot because it was almost a reboot of A New Hope. You had a lot of the familiar elements there. A lot of the story beats were the same, but with new characters. But you had some of the old characters in there to kind of, kick up the nostalgia. I appreciated that. But what I did not want the series to go to, I did not want the second film in the series to be Jedi Master trains the new upcoming Jedi. And then the third movie be, that new upcoming Jedi who has a connection with the evil Jedi, the evil Sith Lord, has to take him away from the evil Emperor-like figure, which I thought that's where it was going, and they totally, they totally gave you a huge swerve on that by killing off Snoke in this film. Now, again, I don't know if this is what was planned all along. I don't think it was. I think, but either way, I'm glad they did, because now it's not going to take that path. And the last thing I wanted was Empire 2 and Jedi 2. So yeah, I'm totally happy with this film. I'm glad it reacted. It's funny because I have the exact opposite reaction with the prequels. When I went to see the prequels for the first time, each one for episode 1, 2, and 3. When I first saw episode 1, I thought it was amazing. And then I saw it again. I was like, okay, I'm seeing some of the cracks here. It's not that good, but I still really liked it. And then the more I saw it, I was like, no, this movie sucks. Right? now it's the opposite. Now it's like, oh, I'm seeing these cracks. It was okay. It was a pretty good movie. And now the second time I see it, I'm like, no, actually, this is a really good movie. And so I'm wondering. So it's like taking a different path for me, like where I started off low, but now I'm enjoying it more, as opposed to the prequels where I started off high, and then the more I saw it, I was like,
then you
no,
you
this
fell
movie
off a
sucks.
cliff, essentially.
Yeah. So, yeah. Again, I'm not. I don't know if like the top 4 for me are the original trilogy and Force Awakens. It's not quite there. It's just it's a step under, though.
So then, I mean, before we wrap up this little segment here, I do want to play devil's advocate just for one thing, because you were mentioning, some of like the story beats as far as Canto Bite and as far as like character motivations that is like essentially they were being reckless. You don't think that's bad writing or lazy writing? Like them just kind of like not knowing what to do and just being essentially, like being morons about everything. You don't think that's bad writing?
I think it's bad writing if they started off that way, and if they wrote the characters, into one situation and then didn't know how to get them out of it, so they just made the mission ultimately pointless. But I think it started the original concept in the script was that the mission would be pointless. So like I would agree with that if it came off, and I appreciate and I understand that a lot of people who have seen the movie think it feels it comes off that way. And when I originally watched it, it did feel like it came off that way. But when I rewatched it, it seems more intentional than it does unintentional. So if it was if it felt unintentional, I would agree. It seems like lazy writing, but it does feel intentional to do it this way.
Okay, fair enough. I mean,
I'm not sure if I'm making myself clear on that,
no,
but
I mean, I got what you're trying to say. But I mean, just me as far as I'm concerned, my personal opinion, like I said, I think it's a good movie, but I really haven't had the urge to revisit. I did try to watch it once, since I bought the Blu-ray, and it's still like on my phone. It's like on my movies anywhere. It's like halfway through. I haven't even finished it yet. I actually watched it like 2 times already on my phone, and The Force Awakens, Last Jedi. I can't even manage to like finish the last hour or so. But whatever. That's just how I feel about that movie right now. But
also
but that this
can I say one more thing?
yeah.
The infamous Mary Poppins Leia. Um, it's I'm not going to defend it. I'm not going to defend it. But I will say this. Uh, I think people who saw the movie and have not seen it since, or have not seen it since. Sorry, people who saw the movie and didn't like the movie and have not seen it since then have inflated that to be more ridiculous than it is. Now, it is ridiculous. It does look dumb, but in my mind, I remembered it far worse than it ended up being. And when I watched it again, I was like, okay, that was dumb, but I remembered it being worse than this. So I think it just got overblown.
Fair enough. I mean, when I did rewatch that scene as well, like I didn't like it, but it wasn't like horrible or like the worst thing ever, as like a lot of people have been saying online since the release. Like, yeah, I'll agree with you. It is dumb, but it's not like the hype of its dumbness or awfulness is overblown. I agree with you there, definitely. But yeah, but this was a nice little tangent talking about Last Jedi again.
I know. I just wanted
later.
to mention it because I was watching it earlier, and I just like that my opinion has changed on it, and I still see people like really butthurt about this movie, and I just everyone's entitled to their opinion. I understand if you don't like a movie, and I understand if you don't like this movie. I'm not going to try to convince you that this movie is good. Like, I'm just saying, this is why I feel it's good. This is why I feel it's great. And if you didn't like it, all right, because you wanted one thing out of a Star Wars movie and you didn't get that one thing. I can totally understand that. But to me, I like that I got surprised and led into a new direction.
Fair enough. I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion, like you said. Just don't demean people for liking it or not liking it, and all that. Just everybody has their own tastes, and we'll leave it at that. I do want to say, like, kind of to shift gears a little bit. Next episode we do, which will probably be the Essential Films episode on City Lights. I just want to say here first that I did come into a little bit of extra money thanks to my birthday a couple weeks ago, like in gift cards and whatnot. So I went on a bit of a shopping spree, cinema-wise. So I do have a few things coming in that I will reveal on that Essential Films episode. So I'm going to start plugging it now because we always have that little like segment at the beginning where we talk about like Alamo or old movies or other stuff. So on that episode, I will reveal the film canister of goodies that I'm soon to receive from different spots. And a lot of it people will recognize. A lot of it is maybe people won't know or will never have heard of. And there's going to be that little section, a little sliver of selections that I purchased where even you're going to be like, why the fuck did you spend money on that shit? And
I what? I don't say that to many people because I own a Blu-ray copy of Howard the Duck. So,
what I purchased I think is far worse than that. So, you're really gonna question probably my sanity once I hear some of these titles. But I'll give a little sliver to the audience here. That's gonna be your preview for the next episode of Essential Films. So that should be up soon. But we're here to talk about Deadpool 2 and Solo. So we'll start with the earlier release first. We're gonna talk about our boy Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool 2. We talked about the first one. We reviewed it here on the show. It was I love that just cinema experience of watching it the first time and just laughing my ass off at like all the in jokes. This was really my first real exposure to the Deadpool character as he was kind of reimagined, in the latter part of the decade or whatnot. Because I don't think Deadpool started out like this kind of comedy jokey. You can probably illuminate me on that. This kind of fourth wall breaking kind of guy was a more recent trend in the comics. Is that correct?
Not recent, but
No, not recently, but like in the last like 10 years or so. I mean,
so basically, Deadpool started off. I mean, his nickname was always the quote unquote "merc with a mouth," and he was always a wisecracking mercenary. Uh, but he didn't start the fourth wall breaking right away. Like that wasn't initially a part of it. I would say, man, comic geeks, you might want to help me out here. I would say like early 2000s is whenever they started doing the
yeah,
breaking the fourth wall in the
about
comics.
15 years or so ish. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, like roughly around then. That's whenever they started breaking the fourth wall. But before then, he was just kind of like a smart ass. Uh, I mean, certainly a lot of similarities, like with the character we all know and love now, except without like looking at the audience or winking at the audience. But yeah, like around 15 years ago, maybe early 2000s, he did start like referencing the fact that he was in a comic book, that people were reading the comic book. He would make references to Marvel itself. He'd make references to DC, like in both overt and subtle ways. And like people around him wouldn't be part of the joke. Like if he was like teaming up with Spider-Man or something, he'd make some sort of joke, and then Spider-Man would be like, "Who are you talking to?" Or something like that. So like it would be it would do things like that. He was he was a much darker character before, like, but they did lighten him up. I mean, he still killed people and chopped people's heads off and shit, but like, he was a little less humorless. He was a little more humorless, even though he was more of a wisecracking guy. But that's whenever he started. Like the meta stuff was probably about 15 or so years ago, I'd say.
Yeah. And then that kind of went now mainstream with the first Deadpool movie. Now we're here 2 years later with Deadpool 2. And just as he promised in that post-credit sequence, Cable is in this movie. So I'll let you take the lead on this one, Adolfo. Just tell everybody a little bit about Deadpool 2.
So Deadpool 2 is stars Ryan Reynolds is our favorite mutant mercenary. Josh Brolin is Cable. Marina Baccarin returns as Vanessa. We have Julian Dennison, who was in one of my favorite movies from a few years ago called Hunt for the Wilder People. He's like a New Zealand actor. He was in that film with Sam Neill. So you guys should check that movie out. It's really fun. And Zazie Beetz as a newcomer here as Domino. And basically the film is about Deadpool. There's something that happens early on in the film. I don't know if they want to spoil it, but basically there's something that kind of caused him to go over the edge, and then kind of start teaming up with the X-Men for new guidance. While he's teaming up with the X-Men as a trainee, the X-Men in this case just being pretty much Colossus and Negasonic the Teenage Warhead. He doesn't really team up with the rest of the X-Men, although there is a nod to them existing, but I won't spoil that here. And while he's on a mission with them, he meets Julian Dennis's character who calls himself Fire Fist, who is a kid that can basically control fire from his hands. And he's at a kind of like basically a parable, or what's the word I'm looking for? Like a thinly disguised attempt at like a rehabilitation center that in the real world like tries to rehabilitate gay people into becoming straight people, right? Like what Mike Pence likes to do and electrocute gay people.
One of those things.
So basically that, but for mutants. You get the feeling that he might be abused or whatever, and Deadpool basically gets involved with this kid's life. They end up both, a huge incident occurs. They both end up going to like a supervillain prison. That's when Cable comes in from the future trying to kill this kid, because basically this kid is going to grow up to become a huge-ass monster and kill Cable's family, and then Cable's coming back in time, Sarah Connor, Terminator style, to make sure that never happens again. In the meantime, he has to come back and try to save this kid's soul and also save himself. That's basically the plot of Deadpool 2. It doesn't really matter what the plot is ultimately, because it's really just a setup to tell a bunch of jokes and a bunch of winking at the camera. They you know, it's funny because they do a whole, in one of the trailers, they do a whole setup of like, you know, he's getting the team together, he's getting X-Force together. And X-Force is a real group in the comics, and he gets it together. And then in this film, it doesn't go the way the trailer shows you. The trailer like showed you scenes that don't actually happen in the movie, which I think is hilarious.
Great, yes.
The way they end up, including there's a really hilarious cameo here, that blink and you'll miss cameo, that you have to. Basically, there's an invisible character called the Vanisher, and when you eventually see what he looks like, I'm not gonna spoil the joke, but it's actually pretty hilarious. So that's basically the plot, and it's just really a way for Deadpool to, you know, it's basically Deadpool 1 again, with him, you know, trying to do the right thing, making jokes to the camera, lots of ultra violence, and then kind of subverting your expectations at the end.
Yes, and I don't want to spoil things either. We'll kind of tread lightly here with the spoilers, but as far as the overall story, I do want to say one thing, and then I actually do have a question for you as well. Just the overall film, which I enjoyed. I enjoyed the hell out of this movie. I just kind of like that the movie as a whole, even including the post-credit sequences that do move the plot forward, which that's why, so folks, stay till the end of the movie after the credits. Everything there kind of moves the plot forward. Considering all of that, if another film had tried to do this, I would have been pissed. But because it's Deadpool and because it's part of what Deadpool is, I enjoyed the hell out of what they did with the story. I'm sure you'll agree with me there. Stuff? Yes.
Yeah, I'm okay with what they did in the post-credit stuff because it is Deadpool. And they make... Again, I'm not going to reveal the joke, but it basically, you know, Cable is a time traveler. And then the post-credit sequence involves Deadpool basically using time travel to do a bunch of stuff. I'm just going to leave it there. The way he does things is actually kind of funny, and his explanations for things are funny. I don't want to reveal the jokes, because the jokes are really amusing. But it does kind of undo certain things. You're like, really? Now then that whole thing doesn't even matter. But it doesn't matter because it's still funny. So I'm okay with why they did it.
Same here, and I do want to just kind of ask you also very quickly, because I know you're the expert on these things. So I did watch the X-Men cartoon back in the day. I wasn't a big fan of it because I never really got into X-Men like that until the movies came out. I did see little bits and pieces here of Cable during the original animated series in the 90s. My first like real exposure to Cable though was I'm sure maybe for a lot of people who weren't really X-Men fans was Marvel vs. Capcom 2, who was the character everybody used to spam like the finisher on. So my 3-man team in that game was always Wolverine, Cable, and Iron Man, because Cable and Iron Man both had that the cannon finishers that would like spam like a whole bunch of hits on the opponent. So I always use those guys because I was a cheap bastard when I used to play video games back in the day. But so Cable is essentially just like this time traveler from the future. So like, how does that relate to him and his encounters with like the X-Men, like Xavier and all those people? Like, how is he important? You know?
So in the X-Men comic books, he is the son of Cyclops and Jean Grey. He comes back in time, so they mess with that here. They don't mention Cyclops and Jean Grey here, but they also. But the reason he comes back in time isn't to save his family. It's basically it has a lot to do with like the whole like preventing the apocalypse and mutant kind and blah 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 blah. You know, kind of like with the whole Bishop storyline as well. Right. That's really kind of his purpose for coming back. Like he comes from like a fucked up future, and came back in time to prevent it. He is a mutant. He has, I believe, he has like Jean Grey's powers, like with the telekinesis. I don't think he's telepathic. It's been a while since I've read Cable, so I'm not sure. But I'm pretty sure he has telekinesis, and he's a cyborg, like they show in the film here. Right. So that's his main purpose, is like and he is pretty much the way Josh Brolin plays him. Like he's very self-serious. He doesn't have a lot of humor to him. And then there is a Cable and Deadpool comic book series where he basically is the straight man to Deadpool's stupidity, where he just can't. And there's a lot of stuff like that where a lot of series where Deadpool is like has people he regularly teams up with. Cable's one of them, Wolverine's another one, and Spider-Man's another one. He basically drives all of them crazy. It's yeah, so it has a lot of that dynamic from that, but they did change his origin a bit for the comics, from the comics, I should say.
Right. But as far as Deadpool 2 goes, like I said, I had a lot of fun with this movie. You know, it's like Ryan Reynolds is firing on all cylinders here. I will say maybe not so controversially or not, but I mean, after really thinking about it, I think I liked Deadpool 1 a little more, only because like that whole shtick was new to me back then. So like a lot of like the jokes like kind of hit me harder. And I'm not saying that the jokes here were bad or were not funny. Like there was a lot of comedy gold here, especially the X-Force sequence, which I know you know what I'm talking about. That infamous like 5-minute or so sequence, which is during which we reveal who the Vanisher is. And again, we're not going to reveal that here, but maybe because I'm used to Deadpool now, like yeah, I enjoyed it. It was funny, but because like seeing the first one, like everything just hit better because I was kind of like shocked by it at the beginning. So maybe I'll give the nod to Deadpool 1 just a little more, but that's not to take any points away from Deadpool 2. This is still a lot of fun. Everything you'd expect from Deadpool. It's hilarious. You know, Ryan Reynolds is great. The violence is on point. You know, I did like also, well, we won't reveal who it is here either, but there is kind of a secret villain in this movie, which kind of popped me when they revealed him. And I had a feeling it might be something like this thing or this person, but when they finally revealed who it was, I was like, yes, this was awesome. But what were your thoughts overall on this?
I really love this movie. It's hard for me to compare this one and the first one in the sense of like, because I've only seen this one once. I've seen the first Deadpool a couple of times, so I'm always going to lean slightly more towards that one just because I've seen that one more. I don't think that like in a lot of but I'll just say this: I'm going to have to see this one a couple more times before I say which one is officially say which one is better. I will say this about the film. It didn't disappoint. I had high expectations going in because the first one set the bar so high that this met expectations. And I had just as much fun watching this the first time as I did watching the first Deadpool the first time. So I will give it that. I've only seen this once, so I don't know which one I like more. Right now I'm leaning towards one right now, but I have to see this one a few more times. One or two more things I want to mention about this. Domino, the character.
Yes.
This is why fanboys need to chill the fuck out when it comes to casting stuff. Because when Zazie Beetz, the actress who plays Domino in this film, was cast, fanboys flipped out. They said the movie was going to suck because this isn't right. That's not how the character's supposed to look like. Blah blah blah. Because Domino in the comic books is like an albino who has a black patch over her eye, looking like a domino. In this film, they flipped it. They made it an African-American woman with a white patch over her eye. And people flipped the fuck out because they were like, well, SJW and blah, blah, and who cares about representation? Just show me what all that bullshit. But turns out she's one of the best parts of the movie. And I have got a hardcore crush on Zazie Beetz. She is super attractive.
She's awesome here.
But
I agree with
she's
you.
really good in this film. And she's also very easy on the eyes. Looking forward to having her in the franchise now. But yeah, I'm just trying to think of anything else I want to mention here. It was lots of cameos. This blink and you'll miss some cameos. Matt Damon is in the film, but you probably will miss him. You'll have to
Yes,
look
I
at the
missed him
credits.
when I first saw it. It wasn't until I read the article about Matt Damon that I realized he was right in my face.
Yeah, you're gonna have to look at the credits afterwards to figure out where he is.
I did see the I was actually reading the credits in the theater and it said Dickie Greenleaf. And I'm like, who the fuck's like that sounded like a joke name, so I figured like something was up with that. But I didn't know who, and I never saw Talented Mr. Ripley, so I had no idea who that could have been, right? So like I saw that name and I knew it had to be like a joke name, but it went over my head. Like I had no idea. But
Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else I wanted to say about this film, but it is a fun ass movie. If you like Deadpool 1, you'll definitely like Deadpool 2. And yeah, all highest recommendation for me.
absolutely, definitely, while it's still in theaters, check it out. If you're a fan of the first one, you won't be disappointed with Deadpool 2. It's a fun ride from start to finish, definitely. So with that, we're gonna move on from Deadpool 2 to the more recent blockbuster and the one, honestly, that you and I have kind of been somewhat dreading. I mean, we kind of made this known on our summer preview. Solo: A Star Wars Story.
Okay, before we get
Um,
to that, I do
yeah,
remember one more point I wanted to make about Deadpool, real quick.
sure, sure.
Did you see the Celine Dion video?
No, I didn't.
So, Celine Dion straight up recorded a new song for Deadpool 2.
Wait,
And
what?
so that song at the very end of the film, whenever they're like, let's just say there's like there's some emotional moments at the end. It's not the one where they sing the "Take on Me" song slow, not that one, not in that
Right.
moment, but one of the other moments in at the end where there's like emotional moment. There's a Celine Dion song playing. It's called "Ashes," and it's a new song by Celine Dion that she recorded for Deadpool 2. And then they released an official music video of Celine Dion singing the song with Deadpool in the video and interacting with Deadpool.
So I know what I'm watching as soon as we're done here.
YouTube Celine Dion Ashes. And it's funny because it just sounds like your standard Celine Dion song, but Deadpool is just all over the video. Um, it's hilarious. Like she's in on the joke, and it's literally the
Yeah.
coolest thing Celine Dion's ever done. And if it gets nominated for an Oscar, I will be the happiest person on earth. So that's what I just wanted to point that out. Celine Dion Ashes Deadpool 2.
Oh, I'm definitely watching that as soon as we're done here. Absolutely. That sounds like it's gonna be awesome. But moving on from Deadpool though, Solo: A Star Wars Story. I mean, we did kind of preview it a little bit on the summer movie preview. We talked about a little bit of like the troubles backstage with Lord and Miller getting dismissed and Ronnie Howard coming on board. And now the end product is here. So another Star Wars movie for another year. So Adolfo, tell us a little bit about Solo: A Star Wars Story.
Okay, Solo, a Star Wars story, the prequel nobody wanted. Um, this, as you said, it started out as a Christopher Lord and Phil Miller, or wait, is it Phil Lord, Christopher Miller?
It's Phil Lord.
Phil Lord, Christopher Miller
There you
joined.
go.
They're the guys who did 21 Jump Street. They did the Lego movie. They were on board with this, and I guess Disney didn't like the direction they were taking it in. They got fired from the job over quote unquote creative differences. Ron Howard came in, step in. The Ron Howard who was very good track record in Hollywood. Never really helmed a Star Wars movie before, but he's pretty much a not necessarily Spielberg level, but he's a very well known director, well respected director. Deserves his spot in Hollywood. And he took over this film. A lot of people were really nervous about that because apparently they reshot over 70% of the movie. But at the same time, the film was also written by Lawrence Kasdan, I believe, with his son Jonathan. It stars Alden Ehrenreich as Han himself, Woody Harrelson, Amelia Clarke. Who else was in? Donald Glover, obviously, and as Lando, Tandy Newton, and Paul Bettany, and a few others. The film is basically an origin story for Han Solo. It is basically it starts off with him like on the streets of Corellian, or because basically
Yeah, Corellia. Yeah.
Corellia, because that's uh, where he grew up, and he started off kind of like a street punk kind of kid stealing things. It goes on from there to his time in the Empire when he enlisted in the Empire, and then after that he's a shows his time as like a smuggler with Woody Harrelson's crew, and basically how he goes from there to becoming the Han Solo that we know now. He meets Lando, how he gets the Millennium Falcon, this and that. So it's basically how did Han Solo become the Han Solo we know at the beginning of A New Hope? It's his origin story. So that's what they set out to do. Nobody really wanted this, which is like so
Right.
like the which is it kind of bears out in like the kind of poor box office performance that this film has been going through. But that said, it has received some positive reviews from critics, not overwhelmingly, but I think it's got a fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. And I think it's like at a 70%, which isn't a bad rating at all.
It's
It's a
not
very
bad. Yeah.
perfectly respectable rating on Rotten Tomatoes. And I have to say, I kind of agree with them. It's not a bad movie. It's a pretty fun movie. I'm not gonna say it's great. It's not as good as Last Jedi, but
Okay.
but it's fun. It's certainly a fun little romp. There were certainly a lot of things that happened in the film where I kind of rolled my eyes a little bit, like, okay, I see, that's a callback. I get it, But for the most part, I enjoyed it. I went into this like, there was a lot of speculation about how Ehrenreich was going to do in the role, and you know what? He's not doing a Harrison Ford impression, but he does put in a good performance. It may not be Harrison Ford, but it's a good performance. So if you can separate the fact that he doesn't look and sound exactly like Harrison Ford, it's still an entertaining performance. Donald Glover was excellent as Lando, I thought, and Woody Harrelson's is always fun to watch. Yeah, I mean, it was a fun adventure movie. They did, they set out to explain what the Kessel Run was, and they basically spent an entire action sequence explaining why why the parsecs line now makes sense in the context of A New Hope. Amelia Clark she was fine. I kind of have issues with her sometimes. Like she can be good and she can be kind of wooden sometimes. Like she's good on Game of Thrones, but she was bad in Terminator. She's kind of just okay in this. Like she didn't blow me away, but she's pretty to look at, I guess. And then and then it shows you how he met Chewbacca and how he got the Millennium Falcon into his possession, and at the end of the movie, he's heading off to find Jabba the Hutt. They don't mention him by name, but they say, "Oh, some gangster on Tatooine." So it's fine. It's actually, for all the hate that this movie got even before it was released, and all the pretty much people saying it was going to bomb, which they were right, it did bomb. But people thinking it was going to suck, it doesn't suck. I think it's a fun movie.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with you there. The first thing I will say is kind of odd that I started with this is, of course, because it's a Ron Howard film, Clint got to get a payday.
Oh, of
so
course,
when
yes.
I saw Clint, I popped, bro. That was awesome.
He gets his 2 seconds in there, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Although I think he was on screen longer than Justin Theroux, so.
Oh, there you go. But I mean, we talked about this again on the summer preview. I set my bar for expectation really low for this movie. So I went into it with pretty okay, let's just get this over with. And maybe because of that, the movie benefited in my eyes because now I kind of like it. I kind of came out of it like, you know what? It was a fun movie. Not great. Maybe good. Maybe on the level of Last Jedi. Again, I'll agree with you, but on my perspective, it was maybe Last Jedi level good. I had no complaints about it. It was, it was a fun little action adventure story. I did love the little surprise at the end with who's kind of pulling the strings a little bit.
Yeah,
with,
that struck me as so there is a reveal at the end of a previous Star Wars character that you were probably not expecting to pop up in this movie. That's all we're going to say.
In a Han Solo story.
In a Han Solo story, right. You might have expected Jabba the Hutt, he's not in there. You might have expected Boba Fett, he's not in there. But this specific character shows up, and you're like, huh, okay. And it certainly feels like Ron Howard got some Disney directive to Marvelize the movie a little bit. In the sense, put in something to be like, hey, by the way, this is going to play into another movie down the road. And I think that movie's going to be the Obi-Wan movie.
Yes. I mean, people are saying maybe there's going to be a Solo sequel, which I wouldn't. I don't know if that would be. I don't want to say wise because I'm sure maybe they could come up with
I
something to make
don't
it
think there
interesting.
will
But
be just because this movie didn't do well. However, I do feel that. See, I don't want to say who this character is that survives because I don't want to blow it because some people might think that this character dies. So I'm not going to say who it is, but basically
yeah,
this character that meets up with this like previously established Star Wars character. Um, I feel like that character will continue into other movies, but I think Han Solo. That's it. As far as Han Solo is concerned,
okay.
that's my guess.
But yeah, I mean, again, like I was enjoying the movie, kind of, just your standard fare for me. Like, okay, this is fun, and then we got to that scene, and I legitimately like got out of my chair, like legit for like a split second. I like jumped out of my chair, I'm like, holy shit, what the hell is he doing? And I was loving it, bro. Like, that was like the thing that this movie needed for me to get it over the hump, for me to like really like it. So I do like it. I do overall, it was a good movie. Maybe not great because it has its flaws. There are some eye roll moments, like you mentioned.
Yeah, and
But
there's
I
some
did,
really bad ones like the I've got a good feeling about this. It's like, ugh,
yeah.
that was bad.
But
That's a clunker of a line.
but I did have fun with this. Like that little reveal did help. But overall, like even that kind of not counting that part, I did have a lot of fun with the movie. Alden Ehrenreich was good. He had the charisma to pull it off. Like he kind of looks like a young Harrison Ford too,
He
so that
kind of looks
helps.
like him, not quite, but like if you squint a little, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like the facial expressions he got down, like the some of the facials that he made in certain scenes, like I could picture like Harrison Ford doing it, like in '77 or '78,
Mhm.
So it kind of worked for me. Like I kind of let my mind kind of do a little bit of the tricking here, but I bought it. It worked for me.
And this is supposed to like they don't really say when it takes place, but it kind of feels like I don't think it's like you go from this film right into A New Hope. Like I feel
No,
like
no,
this
there's
is
a few
like
years. Yeah,
years before A New Hope, like because he only gets like the Millennium Falcon at the end of this movie, and um, like when you see him in A New Hope, he's had the Millennium Falcon for a while. So like, so don't think that it goes from like you watch. It's not like Rogue One where you watch Rogue One and it hops right into A New Hope. Like I would say this takes place way before Rogue One does.
but everything that we kind of predicted would be in this movie, like how he gets the Falcon, how he meets Lando, how he meets Chewie, what the Kessel Run is. It's all here. For those of you who were curious about any of that, it's all here. So, but
And
yeah,
that,
go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, just real quick, as far as like the acting, like Donald Glover was great. Amelia Clark, I'll agree with you. She was all right in some scenes, maybe not so good in others. Like she just kind of come off a little wooden in places. I didn't really buy some of the, like the relationship between her and Han Solo. It kind of, like I like there was supposed to be a connection, but there was certain scenes where I wasn't feeling it. Some of them
Yeah, I
were
agree.
good,
I
but
don't think
some
they
of
had a
them
lot.
like
I don't
were
think they had
yeah.
good chemistry.
Yeah, some of them were okay, but there was some where like, I mean, they're supposed to be like they're supposed to like each other, and I'm not
Like they're
buying it.
supposed to be in love,
Yeah,
and it just doesn't come off that way. Like when you compare it to like Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher's chemistry, that was fantastic
and
chemistry.
and
And
you
then
realize like after like you see this movie like and all like the scenes they had together, and remember in Empire Strikes Back they had that one scene where they kind of like like. And that scene, we talked about this on Essential Films. Like that one scene where like they first kiss, that's a hot scene, bro.
yeah, it
Like
is.
it really is, and it's very minimal dialogue too. Whereas in this movie, they had like what 3 or 4 scenes where they're kind of intimate, and I wasn't feeling it as much as that one scene between Han and Leia in Empire Strikes Back. It was nowhere near those levels of chemistry, like
Yeah,
didn't even touch it.
yeah.
But what were we gonna say before?
Yeah, I'm just gonna say I'm glad that they didn't overdo it with like the like they did it like they did like little winks at to like the characters Han Solo would be, but they didn't overdo it with references to like the rest of the Star Wars world. Like, um, like I believe, and some nerds, and I say nerds lovingly, so don't get mad at me. Some nerds can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I am pretty sure this is now officially the first theatrically released Star Wars movie that does not have 3PO or R2 in it.
I believe you're right. I
They
never
do
saw the
not
Clone
show up,
Wars
and I
movie,
and I
but
was
I don't know if they're in it.
well.
So
Clone War. Does that count?
I mean, it is a Star
I guess
Wars
it was
feature
theatrical
film,
release, but like
so
I never saw it, so I don't know. But so rephrase, theatrical release live action movie.
okay.
Yeah, I never saw Clone Wars, so I don't know. But yeah, and I was afraid they were gonna ram that in somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, because they rammed it in Rogue One, where
Yeah.
they just shoved that sucker right in there. So like, you're like, really? But on this one, they didn't do it, which I'm glad. There's no Boba Fett, there's no Jabba, no Obi-Wan, no Skywalker references, no Vader references. The Empire is there, but really only at the beginning. You don't really see like stormtroopers. After that one scene in the beginning where he joins the Empire, and then there's like a scene where he's like in the middle of a war. You don't really see the Empire again, do you? I'm trying to think.
No, not really.
Yeah, I don't think
But
you
you
see them
know
again.
what? I will say this real quick. Now that
Oh
you
no,
kind of
wait, you
bring
do
that
see
up.
them during the Kessel Run.
Yes, that's right. Um, like what the stuff you just mentioned. There was no like Obi-Wan, no Skywalker references, no really real Force references or Jedi references. You know what? That was kind of refreshing for a Star Wars movie.
No, I loved it. I'm so happy
Yeah,
about that.
like no references to any of that stuff. It was just like a straight up like Western style adventure film. And that was kind of refreshing to see from a Star Wars movie that you don't get to hear about the Force or the Jedi or lightsabers or any of that stuff, because there is a whole other universe that doesn't revolve around just that stuff. It's a whole giant, it holds a whole giant universe, and to not have to hear about that stuff in a Star Wars movie was kind of refreshing, I will admit.
So the one thing I have kind of a problem with. So again, the movie's fun and totally enjoyable. Liked it. My problem with it is the problem that any prequel has. When you watch a prequel with main characters that you know you're going to see again because you've already seen the original movies, whenever they're in danger, you don't feel like there's any stakes, right? Like there's a scene where like
Right.
Han, like they're doing this like train heist, and like Han is holding on to Chewie, and he's like, "Oh, Chewie," whatever, and it's like, all right, we know Chewbacca lives, like, so there's no stakes in this for me, right? Like I don't
Yeah.
feel any danger for them right now, so that it does fall into that trap, and then you know a lot of the other newer characters, you're like, well, we never see those people in the other movies, so most of these people are probably going to die. They don't all die. We'll put that out there. They don't all die, but there are other. But whenever they get in danger, you're like, well, here goes that character, right? Um, so so that it does have that issue with it. The other kind of issue I have is, when we first meet Han in A New Hope, he is a jaded dude, and by the end of the film, he doesn't want to be part of the rebellion. He doesn't want to. He's just like, he wants his money. He wants to go pay off Jabba and get the hell out of there. And then at the end of the movie, his character arc is, you know what? I'm gonna go back and help Luke out and help blow up the Death Star. But at the end, but during this movie, he's still kind of a good guy. Like he starts off as a good guy. I mean, not really start. He starts off as an outlaw, and then at the end, he does the right thing in this movie. Like he does the hero thing in this movie, which doesn't make sense as to why that doesn't jive with what the beginning of A New Hope is, right? Like I feel like he should have been a little bit more of a jerk and jaded by the end of the film, but by the end of the film, he's still kind of heroic, where he's not heroic at the beginning of A New Hope. That's kind of my issue with it. Like
that's why I kind of feel that even though this pretty much bombed for the most part, that they were intending on doing like a Solo 2, because they want to bridge the gap between this Han Solo and then closer to the more jaded, cynical, nihilistic kind of Han Solo that we get in A New Hope.
Maybe, but that would be my major flaw with the film, is that he needed to be much more cynical at the end of the film than he was. He was way too much of a hero at the end of this film for him to be the Han Solo that we know and love. Because then there's no arc for him in A New Hope, right? Because when you watch A New Hope, you kind of know that he's got a heart of gold anyway. But like, if you watch this first and then you watch A New Hope, that's like, well, of course we know he has a heart of gold because we know he did the right thing in this movie, so we know he's going to do the right thing in A New Hope. You know what I mean? So that's why I don't like it. So I wish he was a little bit more cynical, and I wish he would have done because they do introduce like a whole thing with the rebellion in this movie, and he does kind of help them out, and I wish he would have not helped them out. Like, maybe the rebellion, like maybe just not even introduce that aspect of it. Like, just do a whole thing where he screws somebody over or someone screws him over, and that kind of shapes his worldview, But that doesn't really happen a lot. So, I don't know. I guess someone does screw him over, but like I still don't feel like he's super cynical at the end.
Yeah, that was my issue with it too. Like, like you said, a lot of the action sequences really had no stakes because you knew like Han Chewie were gonna survive because they show up in the original trilogy. As far as Han Solo as a character himself, like especially after that big surprise at the end and kind of how the film ended, the thing that was kind of running through my head was, well, maybe they're gonna do a sequel. They're gonna do like a Solo 2, where maybe there's a resolution to that kind of loose thread at the end, and then maybe we'll get closer to the Han Solo that we know from A New Hope, from the beginning of A New Hope, so that he can actually have his arc. So that's why it didn't bother me that much, because that was where my head was at. But now that this kind of bombed, I don't know if they're going to go in that direction. They might just kind of transition this, like you said earlier, into the Obi-Wan Kenobi film. But we'll see. But if this is how it ends, especially since we talked about already earlier, we're gonna say this is at least like maybe 5 to 10 years before A New Hope that this happens. Mm-hmm. So maybe, I mean, that's a long time for him to turn into that jaded guy that we love from A New Hope. So it's not too far fetched that he's kind of starts off as like the nice guy hero, and that's where we kind of leave him. Maybe there's more to that story, or maybe we just kind of have to be like, okay, well, he has like 10 years or so before he becomes that Han. So something must happen to him, maybe while he's working for Jabba, that he just becomes that guy.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It just kind of, I don't know. It just kind of gives me a little bit of a flat ending. But otherwise, as a standalone movie, perfectly fun movie.
Yeah, perfect. It's acceptable. Not bad, not great, but it's just it's something that there are worse things you can spend 2 hours on, and this isn't one of them. So
I'm really surprised we didn't get like some sort of Boba Fett mention, considering they're going to do a solo film. So no pun intended, a spin-off film of Boba Fett. So interesting enough. So
well, I mean, I'm not against that. It's just, I mean. I didn't ask for it,
Yeah,
I don't think
it's kind of like Solo, right? I didn't ask for it, so I don't really care. Now, here's the one thing it has going for it. It's James Mangold, who just gave us Logan, and Logan was one of the best movies of last year.
That's right.
So that's positive. And the Obi-Wan movie is like really the only one I'd actually look forward to, because
is Ewan McGregor gonna come back for that, or are they gonna get somebody else? Do you know?
He has not been officially announced to come back. But in every interview that he's ever given, when people ask him about it, he says, yeah, I'll come back if they ask me. So, like, he hasn't been officially cast, but I don't see why you wouldn't cast him when he says, yes, I'll do it if they ask me to do it. So, I would certainly bet heavily on him coming back.
Yeah, I hope so, because
he's the best part of those prequels. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like doing a Obi-Wan Kenobi prequel without Ewan McGregor, especially now that he's older, so he'd be more like he can more resemble like Alec Guinness at that stage, probably, like if he would be. They'll be kind of stupid, to recast just a whole new actor for that role when you have Ewan McGregor right there, who's now older, who can kind of ease into that whole middle age, or kind of going closer to older age Obi-Wan Kenobi more, and it would just fit perfectly. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But I really hope that works out. Because I would see that I'll see that opening night, bro, just for Ewan McGregor, because I love that guy. He's awesome. Yeah. The same way that I love Woody Harrelson, even though not opening night love Woody Harrelson, because he wasn't enough to get me there on Thursday night.
Were you a little distracted by Woody Harrelson though? Like, it's weird to see him in like a Star Wars movie, because Woody Harrelson is
wacky. Woody Harrelson is wacky. Woody Harrelson. That's why I love him.
There are certain actors that have such a presence that when you put them in like a Star Wars movie, it just seems weird. And that's kind of how I felt with like Woody Harrelson. Like if you put Robert Downey Jr. in a Star Wars movie, it would be like, this seems odd to me. You know, like it just, you know what I mean? Because he's such a presence. Like he's such a like larger than life like presence. It kind of overtakes like the no, he's not a smuggler like in a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. That's Woody Harrelson. You know, it did kind of take that away a little bit. Like he did a great job. Don't get me wrong. He did a fantastic job. Woody Harrelson's always solid. But I was just like, it's just a little distracting to see him in a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I wasn't as distracted as you. I was loving it because I love Woody Harrelson. He's wacky in everything he does, and Solo was no exception. So I really liked him here. But again, just to kind of put a pin on Solo, it's for me, it's a straight out thumbs in the middle, pointing slightly up. It was a perfectly, serviceable movie. I had a lot of fun with it. Maybe because my bar was so lowered practically on the floor that just anything good, I'm going to say I liked it. And I did like it. I mean, I really did. Deadpool, obviously, I think is the one that runs away with it for between these two films. Deadpool's a solid thumbs up for me. But I mean, it's not the train wreck that anybody was expecting.
No,
It
it's
is kind
certainly
of
not.
it is kind of a shame that it's bombing. Because like we just said, it is an okay film. It doesn't really deserve to bomb like that. But hey, you know what? Maybe that Star Wars fatigue is finally settling in.
And hey, you know what? You got to give a lot of credit to Ron Howard for having to come in. Like, I don't know what the original film was going to be like, but he comes in at the behest of Disney and has to redo almost the whole movie, and he still pulled off an entertaining, popcorn movie.
Right.
So, like, you got to give him credit. Like, he did a good job with this. I'm a little like it's a little um I don't want to say sad, but it's a little disappointing, I'm sure, for him that like he put in a lot of work for this and like made a decent film, but like is not going to be rewarded at the box office, and
Right.
you're probably not going to see this specific franchise within Star Wars happen again. I hope he gets another shot at directing because he was fine. He did a good
He was
job.
fine. Yeah.
And but we're gonna go forward with the other spin-offs, I guess. So the one thing I read something like one of the things they thought that hurt them was that they released it too close to Last Jedi, and maybe that's there's something to that. Like
Mm,
maybe audiences are willing to have a Marvel movie every several months, but they're not willing to have a Star Wars movie every several months. Like maybe one Star Wars movie a year, but you can still do several Marvel movies a year. Maybe they were experimenting with their Marvel formula.
right.
Um, I don't know, but I would say just keep. You know what? Just do one a year on Christmas and just leave it at that. Don't keep mucking about with these things. Um,
It was kind of weird because I didn't buy advance tickets for this film. It was the first time ever that I can remember that I didn't buy advance tickets for the Star Wars movie.
hmm.
I kind of just took my chances on that Friday night, and I got in like nothing. My theater was half full. It wasn't even sold out.
It's
Uh,
funny because all these, I kept seeing people talking about on Facebook, like, oh, it's like I'm the only one here. And they share pictures of them being with like one or two other people in the whole theater. It's funny because when I went, it was almost sold out. So I just think that's strange. Like for
yeah,
all
I
the
mean,
box office problems it had, mine was almost sold out.
yeah. I mean, I'm not saying like mine was empty. Like I said, it was half full. But it's like for a Star Wars movie on a Friday night
Yeah,
opening
no, that is
weekend.
that is odd.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was, and it was IMAX of all things too. So,
Yeah,
um,
it'll be interesting to see how they go forward with these spin-off films then, because Rogue One was a really big success. That movie made a lot of money,
yeah,
but Solo didn't. So I think the next one is Boba
I think.
Fett.
Oh, I thought it was Obi-Wan would be next.
No, because I think Boba Fett is in. I don't know. I'd have to look, but I'm pretty sure Boba Fett and then Obi Wan.
Okay.
Um, I only thing I hope with the Boba Fett movie, like, um, I hope it's not a prequel. Like, I hope it's like, and I know people like I know he dies in Jedi, but there have been plenty of like comic books and
Quote
books or
unquote
shit
dies.
like where like he crawls out of the Sarlacc pit or whatever. And you know what? I hope it's a sequel.
I
And
hope they show that, bro. I hope they make
I
that canon again.
like
That
I'm
would be
totally
awesome.
yeah, I am totally okay with him coming out of the Starlight Pit because I do not need to see a Boba Fett prequel origin story. Like I don't need to see another Star Wars origin story.
We kind of have an origin already in episode 2. His father's head gets chopped off by a
Exactly.
black
I don't need
guy,
to see like
and he takes up his mantle. There you go, done.
yeah. I don't need to see the uh I don't need to see like how he did from that moment lifting up his father's decapitated head until now. Like I don't need until like the beginning of Empire or something. That is something I don't need to see. Like so, let's do a sequel. Let's do like he crawls out of that pit, and now here we go. Uh, New adventures.
That would be awesome because in the current canon right now, he dies in the Sarlacc pit. So,
Yeah, get him out of the Sarlacc pit and like have him do some cool stuff.
Some cool stuff, right?
Turn him babyface. I don't care, but like, but I don't need. Don't give me an origin story. I do not need to see an origin story. Please don't.
Right.
So looking right here, I'm looking on Wikipedia. The next one slated is Boba Fett for 2020, which makes sense because 2019 would be the episode 9.
Right.
So 2020 would be the next one, and then Obi-Wan's has not been officially. I mean, it's been announced, but there's no date for it.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So then, before we wrap up, too, let's bring this whole thing full circle because we started with Last Jedi, and I want to bring it up one more time. Do you feel that the response to Last Jedi is affecting Solo right now? Like, and more so within the community.
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Because it's something that I pondered about the last couple of weeks, hearing about like Solo, like the run up to Solo, and then this past weekend, like the opening weekend, kind of just not being anywhere near what they expected. So I'm wondering if maybe the fan response to Last Jedi, whether mostly obviously I'm talking mostly about the people who didn't like Last Jedi, maybe that's affecting the Solo box office now. You think that could be a reason?
It could possibly be. I don't know. I honestly think the reason for the film's failure is like a 1-2 punch of it. It was released too soon after Last Jedi, and it's also like it's got way too much competition with Avengers and Deadpool, but also that it's not a movie anybody really wanted to see. So I don't know if Last Jedi's negative fan response plays into this or not. It could have, but I don't know.
The real test of that will be episode 9 next year. Like if that underperforms to what they're expecting, then maybe we can factor in maybe Last Jedi as being like the beginning of that. But I think maybe
Jedi still
episode
made $1 billion, man. Like Last Jedi.
That's what I'm saying. Like maybe I'm not saying that Last Jedi bombed or anything, because like you said, it just made $1 billion worldwide, but maybe it was that fan response, like there's people saying, okay, Last Jedi I hated Last Jedi, I'm done with Star Wars, and then that kind of trickled down to Solo, which will trickle down to episode 9 if that theory holds true. That's what I'm saying. Like Last Jedi was kind of the precipice, like, okay, this was going to be, people were looking forward to Last Jedi. It disappointed them. They hated it for whatever reason, and they're done with Star Wars. And now Solo is underperforming, and now will episode 9 kind of follow that trend, is what I'm saying. Like, if it does, then maybe that we can kind of trace it back to Last Jedi.
I think that every fanboy that was said that they hated Last Jedi is still going to show up to see episode 9. I don't think that anyone, because every fanboy that hated the prequel still showed up to see Force Awakens. So I just think the problem, the anomaly here is Solo, because Solo was just something that nobody really wanted, and I think that's really why it underperformed. Whereas Last Jedi, like, it's, I'm looking at the Box Office Mojo. Star Wars: The Force Awakens was a huge juggernaut. It made $2 billion. But actually, did it make $2 billion? Let me see. It made.
I think it did. I think it did.
It made just over $2 billion. And the Star Wars: Last Jedi made $1.3 billion. So it was off by $700 million. Which, yes, that's a lot of money. But that it's off by. And whereas, especially when you look at the Marvel movies, where like they seem to go up with their sequels, right? Like Avengers: Infinity War has been doing more business than Ultron and the original Avengers. So like you'd think, using that logic, it is a disappointment that they didn't make those $700 million that they made on Force Awakens, but it's still like ridiculously successful, like 1.3
Yeah.
billion. They made a profit. They made a hefty profit off of that movie. So, and it's going to continue the franchise. It's certainly not a failure by any stretch of the imagination. Even if
No.
some people think it was a creative failure, it
Right.
wasn't a financial failure. It may just not have uh, performed as much as they wanted it to. I think Episode 9 will probably make roughly the same amount of money that Last Jedi did. That's my prediction. Just because I think Force Awakens is the real anomaly here, because we hadn't seen Star Wars in, at that point, what, 10 years, something like
Ten
that.
year. 10 years.
Yeah. So and it was also like we haven't seen Star Wars in 10 years. Plus, we're getting Han and Princess Leia and Chewbacca and Luke for 2 seconds. But you're getting the whole gang back together, and you're starting a new franchise. Like there was a specialness factor to it where there wasn't as much with The Last Jedi, because it's like, well, we just saw a new movie 2 years ago. And Star Wars fans are not, while there is crossover with Star Wars fans and like Marvel fans, they're not necessarily the same audience, because Marvel has trained their fans to like, we got a new movie coming out every couple of months, and they all tie into each other, and you got to come back for each new chapter. Whereas Star Wars is like, it's like, okay, we got a movie out every year, and you got to kind of come back, So it's not quite the same. It's not apples to apples. So I don't know. We'll see. I don't think it's gonna. I think Episode 9 will probably do the same kind of business as Last Jedi did. I think Solo is an anomaly.
Fair enough. But I guess with that, we're going to wrap up Force Perspective, episode 112. Any questions, comments, feedback, send an email to fpmpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter at SportsGuy515. You can follow the show on Twitter at FP Movie Podcast. And Dolph, I'll let you get your plugs in as well.
EssentialFilmsPodcast.com. You can subscribe to our podcast, The Essential Films, on iTunes, and you can also subscribe to YouTube.com/Adolfo J. Acosta, where you can see not only this show, but the Essential Films episodes as well. The iTunes episodes, due to YouTube's, in my opinion, ridiculous copyright standards that I think don't take into account fair use, the iTunes episodes have more kind of audio features than the YouTube episodes do.
Right.
But you can get the same content more or less in both forms. But just to know that if you subscribe on iTunes, you will get it sooner than you will if you see it on YouTube, and it will also because if you subscribe, it'll just automatically update on your whatever your podcast app is on your phone, and but it also have a little bit more bonus content in it. And our last episode was, speaking of Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back. Our next episode will be Charlie Chaplin's City Lights. So stay tuned for that.
Absolutely. And like I already teased at the beginning of this show, on that episode, I will be opening my film canister of goodies of all the stuff I bought with my birthday gift cards. And I don't know, that could take up half the show already, because I'm already predicting a lot of questions as to some of the motivations for some of these purchases. So yes, and it is an actual film canister, which I will tell the story about that film canister on that episode. So everybody stay tuned for that. But do you have any last words before we get out of here?
No, I have a prediction that one of those things will be the latest truth-seeking documentary from the great filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza.
Oh, who was officially pardoned today by the President of the United States, apparently. So there's that to look forward to.
Dinesh D'Souza is to filmmaking what I am to bikini modeling. Neither one of those
Oh,
Neither one of us
God.
belongs in that category and should never attempt it.
I just got this horrible mental image that I'm trying to erase now. Thank you very much for that. No offense.
No, and there you go. Because neither one of us belong in those things, and that is why I made that comparison.
And ladies and gentlemen, on that lovely note, on behalf of Adolfo on Sports Guy 515, thank you for joining us on this episode. And until next time, we are out of here.